Hey, what's going on? This is the Pre-Chiro podcast. My name is Dr. Ben Glass. Today, I'm speaking with the ABCA president, Dr. Michaela Edwards. Dr. Michaela, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. We are trying to bring as much value to the prospective student as we can today. And what better person than you to speak about the ABCA and just what it's like, what it's been like for you on this path. So can we just get started by you sharing a little bit about what maybe your upbringing was, your background was, and how you found chiropractic and like what attracted you to this profession?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here to speak with you on this platform. Actually, a first podcast that I've spoken on, hopefully to be of many. But thank you for your platform and for working diligently toward, the uptick of our profession. So I was born in Houston, Texas. Both my mother and father lived in the Midwest. My father's from Tulsa, my mother's from Kansas City. And so they met in Kansas City because my father moved to Kansas City, when he was in school. And basically just, typical Midwestern family. My father ended up being drafted playing football for the Houston Oilers. So we moved to Houston before I was actually born, and that's how I was born in Houston. But he played only for a couple of years and then was traded to Buffalo Bills in New York. And my mother was like, nah, we're not going up there, not from Houston. So we stayed back. So I didn't make that trek, and he didn't like it either, obviously. So he ended up stopping playing with the NFL, and we ended up moving back home in Kansas City. So I was raised here. This is home. I lived in Dallas for 20 years, well, a little bit over 22 years actually, and back and forth between chiropractic college there. But I basically went back to Dallas and lived after graduation for a while, and then ended up having to come home 5 years ago. So I'm here in the Kansas City area. Of course, with a father that plays in the NFL, right? You grow up in a house full of athletes, nonetheless. My brother and I were athletic. We both, competed in college. I did earn a full scholarship for track and field at the University of Kansas, the Big 8 conference. I know that's like history at this point, so I'm aging myself. But I ran track there and ended up injured and could not really complete my 4 years of running track and field at a D1 collegiate level. No one really could tell me what was wrong. Of course, I know I had plantar fasciitis and, pretty much just plagued with low back pain from a number of things. But it was always suggested surgery or like stop running. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to stop running. So at that point, I just got my degree in exercise science, sports med, or sport and health studies, which was back then considered today to be athletic training. And got that degree, worked with a couple of sports teams, and met a friend of mine who worked with me at the bank going through undergrad. I worked at a bank part-time, and went over to her house, and her husband was a Tri-9 at Parker at the time. And so, he adjusted me, and I was having allergy issues at that time. Had never heard of chiropractic, believe it or not. And so he adjusted me, and the rest was history. He was like, I think you'd probably be really good at this. And so I ended up, very interested in matriculating there at Parker, but knew I wanted to come back to the Midwest to go to school. So I ended up at Logan. Which was home, but not home. It's 3 hours from where my family lives here in Kansas City, there in Chesterfield, Missouri. And so, the journey just begun there. I did a few things sports related there, worked with the Ferguson Florissant School District at McClure North High School as their athletic trainer, is where I started out being their athletic trainer, and then turned into their track coach, and then turned into their, district chiropractor, if you will. So, the experience has been great. Bounced around a little bit, and here I am in Kansas City, still trying to, make it through the COVID soup that we have been dealt with, and take care of my family all in the interim. And then, most definitely in the midst of it all, we would have an election for a new executive board for the ABCA, and here I am. So been active with the ABCA though for about 12 years as a board member, actually. And it's just been a good ride, to see all of the top twists and turns of this thing, and how our profession has changed and how it's going to change. I think I'm now tapping into my psychic abilities and saying I can just see where we're going, because the momentum has started already. And so I'm very excited to see what the next decade is going to bring the profession.
Most definitely, me as well. I keep seeing this hashtag popping up that says "We are here." And one thing you just mentioned was, believe it or not, I had never heard of chiropractic. Well, I could believe it because I was also a kinesiology, exercise science, personal trainer, massage therapist that had never heard of chiropractic. So I believe us being here is going to be that difference maker for the profession in the future, of just showing up and being present, so that any prospective student watching this right now can just see, hey, we're just regular people having a conversation, but we also have similar paths that they're taking currently right now. So I appreciate you touching on being an athletic trainer, a track coach. I've witnessed a lot of different fellow chiropractic students being sports coaches or having been sports coaches before chiropractic school. Can you talk a little bit about that transition to going to chiropractic school? What were some challenges you faced, or maybe surprises that you encountered?
Well, as far as, you know, my experiences as a student, I cannot really say it was a bad experience. There was only one situation I can say was, you know, a sore thumb. It stuck out like a sore thumb to me, and that was, I was in class at the time Barack Obama was running for president for the very first time. So you can imagine, if you will, I think my class was 72 or 76 people. There were only 8 women, and I was the only Black person in the class. So I was one of 8 and one of 72 or 76, however many there were. And so it was stiff in that room. You know, there were a lot of jokes, off-tone jokes. There was a couple people that were trying to say, you know, have some respect, but for the most part, it was, you know, it was what it was. And I can't say that I, like I said, had any bad experiences outside of, you know, I'm one that, you know, believes that you can create an experience. So perhaps I set the tone and made it well understood when I walked in the room. You probably didn't want to go there with me. So I didn't really have a lot of things in your face. I mean, I worked hard. I did, you know, hustle quite a bit to get out of school. There's the requirement of bringing new students in. And I exceeded those numbers well before try 9, because I was an athletic trainer and a coach at a high school in the middle of the most urban place closest to the school, which was Ferguson, Florissant. So you can imagine I had every student every day, you know, every student athlete from Ferguson, Florida, or from McLuhan North coming in. And so I quite easily broke the record of, you know, how many people can you get in one semester, until I was kind of, you know, okay, do you need a patient? We can work it out. So it wasn't that bad of a deal, except for after I did that and graduated, then of course Logan changed their number policies, that you can't bring all of your new patients cannot be student athletes or whatnot, which I understood, but there was no rule at that time. Same time I got my number. So it is what it is. But I think what we are looking at today, when I talk to SAPTA students today, a lot of, and of course I'll say pre-COVID, pre-George Floyd being killed, because this is typically, you know, been our experience beforehand. Now, what we felt and dealt with from July to date is a lot different, right? It looks a lot different. It feels a lot different. Even their schooling is different, where they're not necessarily all going to be in a classroom. But pre-COVID and pre all of this mess, I think across the board, a lot of our students were feeling, number one, like they were separated. There was not necessarily a cohesiveness in the classroom that makes them feel as if they're a part of a part, if that makes sense. And then we have a lot of students that have felt impartial about certain things that have gone on in their curricula, be it, you know, test questions being phrased pretty sketchy when it comes down to race relations, and then just not having any representation within, or seeing any representation of themselves within the curricula, in the books that they are taught on, the presentations, even the pictures in the presentations are not necessarily representative of what students, you know, feel like they are to become a part of a part. So I think for the most part here, we are looking at primarily just a student experience that is solid, meaning, you know, you're solid on, you're in there, you deserve to be there, but when you get there, we need to make you feel like, you know, you belong there, and maybe have some comfort in knowing that you got somebody that you can, you know, fall back to and say, listen, am I the only one, and are we really gonna, you know, how do we get through whatever it is that we are dealing with? So the ABCA has created, you know, a forum for our students, our SAPCA members, to bring their grievances, tell us what they want us to know, and then we kind of become the think tank as a board of directors to figure out what it is that we need to do to get our students in the seat, number one, and to stay in the seat, number two, and when they graduate, to practice or to do whatever it is that they want to do within the profession, so that they can help with the profession to grow.
That's really dope. And you're talking about infrastructure and a supportive ecosystem that the ABCA has created for students. And I really appreciate how you talk about the whole life cycle. What I'm
Mhm.
trying to expand the thought on is the pre-chiropractic student and adding that into the life cycle. And I think
Mhm.
that if ABCA starts to create a supportive ecosystem for that population of people, that when they get to school, they'll already know what you just described to be available to them. Because I think a lot of students go through school, they don't even know about the resources that they might have access to if they knew that they were available. And so I think that going into school, having maybe been through something that prepared you mentally for what you just described, was not only available, but also to come potentially as like just feeling like you're different than the people in the classroom, and maybe trying to meet people where they're at, but also standing your ground, being authentic, being who you are, and just staying connected to that throughout the program, and not like trying to fit in or trying to be a
Mhm.
part of the culture that might be a lot different from what you know, where you came from. And so yeah, just getting a little creative here. What do you think a prospective student could start to explore or start to prepare themselves for, or prepare themselves to be when they get to chiropractic school? Because you said that they earned their place there in school,
Mhm.
but I believe that we failed as a profession to really clarify what that means to earn your place as a chiropractic student.
Yeah, so I think most definitely when we talk in terms of pre-Chiro school, where you have perhaps an undergraduate student that is looking into joining the profession, as well as perhaps even someone getting ready to graduate high school, trying to figure out what plan do I chart to get there. There are two different scenarios, of course, and I would attack both of them differently. So, of course, as far as the pre-Cairo student, meaning the high schooler that is cognizant and understands, okay, school is the next step. Maybe they've just decided to go to college or decided on a career path, and it's healthcare, and they just don't know what it is. I think that we owe those communities, the students that would never have heard or learned of the profession, to be able to hear from all walks and talks within that profession. So of course it would be an understanding of presenting what chiropractic is. Right now, the ABCA has what's called a community outreach project. It's an outreach project we do every year, and we link it within our national convention. So wherever our national convention is being held, we select an organization that is local to the school or location where we're going to have our convention, and we contact them with no preconceived nothing. We really want to know nothing really about the organization other than who do you service, how old are the children, and then what is it that the ABCA can do for you, whether it's fundraise for one of their initiatives, or should we be able to pull it off within our national convention. We'll invite them in and we'll put on a fair for them, basically a chiropractic fair. It will be all things chiropractic. It will be no other profession there but us. And then we'll teach them what chiropractic is. We will do anatomy walkthroughs through the labs, because we always link up with the schools. We got our student chapter representatives that will speak to them, because these are the young generations that they'll be looking up to anyway. And they'll have doctors, they'll have students there, they'll have people there with white coats on, that they can see what we look like, they can hear how we talk, and they can ask the questions, formally or informally, as they, have split up groups with these future doctors. So that's one way. And of course, then we always implement the school to bring in their admissions or recruitment office to have a blurb in that piece, right? They want to give them an idea of, here's what it looks like, from a perspective of, what is required to get in chiropractic school. And they'll walk away with a goodie bag with this information that they can, go home and talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, those organizations are bridge the gap between the school in the city that they occupy, and then, the organization. So now we have a link between the community and the school, and hopefully that bridge is built and they'll keep it, and we won't have to worry about inviting students in, or prospective students in. They have a bridge right there in the urban part of the town in which they occupy. So the second piece to that is if we take some type of, and I hate to say road show, but there has to be a representative within the profession that will literally take the responsibility to show up at HBCUs, show up at undergraduate health fairs or job fairs or career day fairs, show up and represent the profession, then I think at that perspective, it will be, again, you see someone that you can have an offside conversation, you get a business card, you get contact, you can get linked into a lot of these social media pages that these kids are already all on anyway, to have a conversation with some students that are already in the programs and ask those questions. They may not be in front of you, but they're at your fingertips on social media. But yet you still get an understanding of what it is. You get a real one, a real understanding or presentation of what the profession looks like and what we are doing, and the possibilities that comes with it. And I think that we can probably pick up quite a bit of minority students if someone just did the work. I think the problem now is that the schools just don't have, number one, they're not really, filling those roles with the people that are probably going to get the best response going into those events. And I understand it's tough. So that's one of my ideas on what the issue is. But the second side to that is, again, the schools have to change their actual tone when it comes down to diversity and inclusiveness, so that they can actually find these people, employ them, and keep them, retain them, right? Because again, if the culture is not inclusive and if the culture is not diverse, the schools run into the same problems and the cycle continues.
That's a fact. I like everything you just talked about. Can we shift from you talking to me to you talking to that student at the roadshow, at the career fair, in the classroom, and just kind of help build context for them, help clarify this path so that they can understand how it's differentiated from, say, physical therapy or becoming a medical doctor, and what the possibilities are as a chiropractor, specifically coming from a diverse background?
Mhm. Absolutely. I would tell any student that is interested in seeking, the profession of chiropractic and what it all entails is, number one, just do your research and understand the difference between chiropractic care and, allopathic care, or where we do not deal and will with medicine or any of the type of drugs that are prescribed in other categories of healthcare. We deal with things natural. So everything that your body does with a natural linked to whatever source is linked up to, that's what chiropractic seeks to make optimal. We seek to make it much better, and work and flow in the manner it's supposed to work and flow. So we do things like the chiropractic adjustments. We do modalities, therapeutic modalities that will help aid us into kind of getting those muscles out of the way so that we can get down to the bone level and make sure everything is aligned properly, especially in the spine, but all over in all joints of the body. Chiropractics, I always say it's the profession that you get some bonuses in with it. We don't really, talk about a lot of the bonuses. People really don't describe it other than, man, I went and got an adjustment because, I had a crick in my neck and it was like this. And you know what? I started to breathe a little better. I didn't have a stopped up nose anymore. My allergies went away. It just happens like that. Chiropractic gives you a lot of bonuses in there. But again, things natural is what we seek to, promote and make sure that the body is working in the way that it's supposed to work. So we have a lot of things that you can do. And I always tell students that are not necessarily sure what it is they want to do, if they can pick out the finite specialty that they want, if they want to work with babies, if they want to work with pregnant women, if they want to work with a demographic of elderly people or athletes, you would first probably seek that and then say, well, what is it that I really want to do? Do I want to be on the triage side or the rehab side? All of these are things that most definitely you could, utilize chiropractic to enhance the experience of the athlete as well, or the experience of whatever demographic you pick. We have, other specializations that once you get your chiropractic degree, you can still switch over. So don't feel like you'll be stuck. Chiropractic has a world of opportunities within different, like I said, demographics, different specialties, as well as research and as well as teaching. I don't like to, just say everybody who graduates with a doctorate in chiropractic has to work 12 hours a day in a clinic and adjust spines all day long. Perhaps, you're a great teacher or a great presenter of information, or perhaps you are interested in changing the profession by contributing to the research projects that we have, that we constantly will need to keep in rotation and cycle so that the profession can continue to grow and we can find new things that we can promote within the profession from
Mm-hmm.
our research that we'll have out there. So all of these things are definitely, possibilities. And I would say, do not sell yourselves short. You do not have to, work in a traditional manner of what we call doctoring is, because in chiropractic, doctors of chiropractic are teachers, they are adjusters, they are researchers, they are leaders in communities, and most definitely they are masters at that central nervous system. So
Mm-hmm.
push the idea of studying up on your biologies, your anatomies and physiology courses. There's a lot of prerequisites that goes into it, but you want to research those programs to see what will help you along the way, especially those of you that are graduating high school and entering into the undergraduate field. I believe mostly, and again, I'm so far removed from school, but I believe most programs that are biology, kinesiology, and life sciences will probably get you most of the prerequisites to matriculate into a DC program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's wild is they changed some of the entrance requirements about 2 years ago. So you really only needed bachelor's degree. It could be in almost
Okay. In
anything.
anything. Yeah. Yeah. See, in my day, it was biology or one of the life sciences.
Yeah, and that's just really helpful for career transitioners, people who
Uh-huh.
already went to school, maybe for thinking they were going to go a different direction and now are considering chiropractic. Can you
Right.
share like your story, kind of a synopsis of like the possibilities translated through your story of how you were able to become a chiropractor and how you were able to make an impact on your community and sort of the experience, the lifestyle that you've been able to enjoy as a chiropractor?
Yeah. So when I started, like I said, I did my whole preceptor and postceptorship in the South. I was in Atlanta, and I worked in a sports chiro clinic there in Buckhead. And then, didn't want to live in Atlanta though at the time. So, I was going back to Dallas. So I stayed in St. Louis for just a little while, did a preceptorship there with the doc who was the actual chiropractor of the school beforehand. That was his alma mater, his high school. So it was weird. We were kind of like, working with the team together, the teams there together. And so my experience was completely sports. When I got back to Dallas, I, did a lot of on-site. See, my thing, I was never big to sit in a clinic all day because I really felt like on the field or in the community was where I belonged. If I was going to do something, I would want to work the little league, tournament in the gym, and I'll just be there, where I need to be. And so for me, it was tough to say I was going to sit in a clinic all day. But when I got to Dallas, I worked part-time with a colleague that had graduated from Parker. At the time, he had a small clinic in Grand Prairie, and so we worked out of there. And I rarely saw patients there just because most of my work was in the gym. And so along the lines, I thought, well, you can work yourself quite a bit, and it can be taxing if you don't know how to block your energy. And so I started to understand what was going on with me as far as training and treating patients, and then just having nothing left at the end of the day. And I realized it was my energy I was putting way too much out, and I was remaining open. So I was bringing everything in. If I'd lay hands or touch somebody that probably was going through something, I was taking that on. They were walking out of the office feeling great, but I was going home feeling like trash.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to study this. I started to study the energetic side of things and the shift of energies and the change within the field according to thought and the process of, thought processes and beliefs and limiting beliefs and meditations and, clearing core energies that completely would change the body's function instantly. And so energetics kind of became my thing. I became a nerd at that. So I kind of just switched around. And of course, when I ended up having to relocate and move back to Kansas City, I already had, the foundation for a clinic project that I was working on anyway. I just kind of turned it into the energetic side. And then I got elected as president of the ABCA and then turned into like the research guru. So to me, all of these things are a possibility. And while I say that they can be done with the profession of chiropractic, within the profession, I most definitely am living it, right? Because I completely now understand I can do anything. I probably can go to a school and get a job as a teacher today with no questions asked if teaching was my thing. If I wanted to do research, well, I am doing research. The ABCA is working on a couple of research projects internally to where we are going to roll out and be promoting it for our diverse list of clinics across the nation. And then when you talk about speaking, you saw me speak last week, or just being a leader within a profession, creating, presentations to actually represent the profession, which we don't have much of these days because we don't ever see anyone that looks like me to get up in front of a group of people within the profession to present anything. Those are the things that I like to do now. So there's so much that you can do. And I want to kind of tear down the stigma that, if you are a person with a chiropractic degree and you don't adjust in a clinic all day, you're not a chiropractor, or you're less worthy then. That's not true. So the profession needs leaders at all costs. And to be honest with you, we need leaders at all facets. I speak to my experience, which it's been well-rounded. And I'm not done, so I don't know where I'm going to end. But, I started out in the clinics, and then, ended up, working the association. And then now I'm kind of just like, okay, I think next it may be, a very elaborative recruitment job. I don't know how long that'll last, but I really would like to see the profession change its face and change the way that, we reach the general population in the next decade. I would like to see it literally flip and become the gold standard, really, when it comes down to healthcare in the nation.
Most definitely.
So the sky's the limit.
Yeah. And your vision, it aligns perfectly with my vision. I believe that chiropractic needs to be the first choice, not the fallback option. And right now, most people are not even hearing about it. And by the time they hear about it, it's because they either didn't get into where they wanted to go, or it's like kind of a fallback. And I just think that that's breeding a new generation of people that didn't really know why they wanted to go to chiropractic school, ended up kind of lacking passion and maybe burning out, either as a student, having already wasted a bunch of money on tuition, or having gotten out with a piece of paper that said something that they didn't really identify with or that they disagreed with. So yes, absolutely 100%. We need more involvement from leaders at all facets. Specifically in this podcast, in this discussion, we're really just trying to meet and be that guidance counselor, that advisor, that trusted advisor, because we've been there, we've done that. We're out in the real world, we're living it. We're both inspired. We didn't know about chiropractic. We didn't grow up in a chiropractic family. We come from communities that lack chiropractic as from a presence standpoint. I mean, I grew up, my best friend was a barber, and he was also a DJ. And from the barbershop model, we used to hang out in the barbershop and just kind of politic. And I would always tell people when I got out of chiropractic school that it's kind of like, you go get a lineup for your hair, you go get aligned up at the chiropractor. It's not meant to be this medical experience where you got something wrong with you. You're just going to promote your health, enhance your lifestyle, feel better by yourself. So anyway, I appreciate your energy on the podcast today. This is real. What do you think, our brand needs to be when we go to HBCUs, when we go to diverse community, 2-year programs, community colleges, I meant to say vocational programs, how we create a pipeline from high school to chiropractic school? What is our brand going to look like? I'll just say first, my brand for it is, the inner state is borrowing from innate. So innate becomes your inner state, and state is an acronym for scientist, thinker, artist, teacher, and entrepreneur. And my thought or focus or hope is that any prospective student out there can go through these different learning experiences of feeling what it's like to be an entrepreneur, doing their own research, doing maybe a science project in the name of chiropractic, and exploring the different arts and trying to create like their own idea of how they could provide chiropractic care in their own artistic way. But anyway, that's just me.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the lens.
I love it. I mean, that is an awesome, awesome brand to build. I have not even begun to. So when I say that, I think that in the next year or so, once I have got my feet, wet and literally set on solid ground with the association, and I can kind of back up from the association, not from a perspective of just drop the ball, but literally take my, immediate past president role. I think I'll turn into some type of recruitment, show, if you will, where I would actually pull in some leaders to become a think tank and figure that out, because we do have to, whatever it is, it needs to be across the board. There's too much divide already in the profession, and it would be horrible if one of us was doing one thing and then somebody else something totally different, when I really feel like we're much more powerful and, you know, collaboratively. So I would love to invite you to be a part of that, because it sounds like you've gotten a little bit further down the line as far as thinking of, you know, the breakdown of this you know, presentation, or the breakdown of how we will present this thing to prospective students, especially at an HBCU level, because you have to, number one, guard the way that you actually make this presentation, or else you would lose them at the drop of a hat. But also at the same time, whatever it is that we are portraying, we most definitely have to make sure that our profession is ready to receive them in that capacity. So that's one of the things that I always say. I've kind of taken the get the profession ready role, and then I'm going to roll into let's hit it, and then I'm just going to send people back over here, because I know I just left from back here, because that's where I went to kind of set that branding up, if you will. So I think you're spot on, and I think that, you know, in the near future we could most definitely work together and try and figure that out, because I think the students deserve it, and our communities deserve it. I mean, we have too many communities. I don't know how far of much of the presentation you saw, but I threw that map up there that showed all of the communities, the counties within the United States that house over 20%, between 20 and 100% of African Americans or Blacks in those communities. And then the number of how many people we got as chiropractors and chiropractic patients in those areas is just heartbreaking. So I feel
Almost
like
zero, right?
it's almost zero. It's almost zero. It's like under 1%, you know. And so no wonder we can't come out of our clinics and do any, you know, promotion of the profession or any recruitment in the profession, because that 0.5% of us that are in those communities, we're overworked. So we have to figure it out. We got to get it done. I really feel like now we have the microphone with platforms like yours and spaces that the ABCA has pretty much snatched up the stage. We'll get it done. So I'm very confident that we'll see some change in the actual profession. But I would love to continue this conversation with you over the, you know, next 6 months to a year, so that we can most definitely figure out what it is that we're going to do in order to reach the masses when it comes down to recruitment.
100%. All right, this is the last question, bonus
Okay.
question. If you're talking to a young person or even a career transitioner, they're going to be the first doctor in their family.
Mm-hmm.
They're maybe scared of the financial commitment. They don't come from money. They don't have generational wealth. Why is chiropractic still a great opportunity for them? And why shouldn't they be scared of the financial debt that they might end up in? And also just kind of like speak to that hunger that they might need to have, or that hustle that they might need to have, if they're going to choose this path.
Yeah, well, I most definitely have to be forthcoming and say that chiropractic, I have seen the gamut of the far over there to the far over there. It's like you can pretty much get what you put back into the profession. So let's just say I know part-timers that are comfortable, and I know, you know, full-timers that are, you know, very comfortable, but they may not have a lot of time on their hands, meaning they are really, really working and putting forth the effort to become $1 million chiropractor, which I do know quite a few of those as well. So I would say, again, you would want to set goals on what it is that you expect to get in out of the profession, as well as what you expect to put in. For me personally, you know, chiropractic is my third profession, and so I always laugh and tell people I don't live off of chiropractic because it's my third profession. I like to give back within chiropractic. I know what I have, I know the knowledge that I have, and the skill set that I hold, and I help all of those who really need it that can't get it, or I can't refer them to get it someplace else. But I think my thing is to pretty much give back to the profession as my love offering, just to innate, if that makes sense. So you know, set your goals and be realistic about them. It is an expensive endeavor. I don't feel like it should be something that can deter you. No one is really turned away from getting the financial aid that they need to complete these programs. But student loans are something that we talk about a lot in the ABCA as well, because we all know that 6 months after graduation, you're required to start paying those loans back. And a lot of people panic because they may not be able to afford it. But I think now we've had the exposure with quite a bit of few organizations that are able to help people to get those loans under control and to a level to where you can actually work and, you know, enjoy life a little bit and not be bogged down with student loans. And so there are going to be some scholarship offers that will be there. Not everyone, unfortunately, will get a scholarship, but we do have some offers that will be on the table for the next generation of chiropractic students that may be offered some type of monetary assistance for the programs, and depending on which program they pick. Of course, there are 15, I think 15 schools with two of them having multiple locations, two or three having multiple locations. So, you know, opportunities are vast. We just have to, you know, take each, I guess, student as they come. But always, you know, I recall the time of thinking that, you know, this is going to be such a huge debt. And now I feel like, I mean, I of course have had my episodes where it's like, oh my gosh, the student loans are here. And, you know, I've had to handle them, but everything is handled. I mean, you can get it done. There's not an organization out there that will tell you, you know, no one can help you. So don't feel alone in that. We all have the same debt. It is a big endeavor, and it is a commitment. The programs are not easy. I don't stand before anyone and say I didn't struggle, because I'd be lying. I struggled a little bit, and I was, you know, a 3.5 GPA undergrad student. So if that gives you any indication, I mean, it gets tough just because it is a challenging program. It's challenging information to learn, and, you know, it's going to take a very deep commitment. I wouldn't suggest, you know, going through the situation thinking that you have to work a job. That's almost impossible for some, because it's hard. But again, there are ways to, you know, lessen the load a little bit. So utilize your opportunities and research any, you know, scholarships in your area. They may be out there.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at this. You said the students deserve the support, and it is a really big commitment. It's a lot of work. We're here for you as a student. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either of us. Dr. Michaela's information will probably be listed below, as well as the ABCA. She listed a number of different supportive options and services that they offer students. So don't hesitate. If you have questions, please reach out, and we're here for you. I want you to know that. So this is all about chiropractic, and if you want to become a chiropractor, this is about you just knowing what it is, knowing what it's about. So have a great day. And Dr. Michaela, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely.